Yo, YouTube, what's going on, boys? We are back again with another reaction video. Um, Honestly, I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to put this on my reaction channel or if I want to put this on my Apex channel. I'll probably put this on my Apex channel just because it kind of makes more sense. But this video is why you suck at Apex. Um, so we'll take a look at this, man, because my gaming channel, man, super dedicated to improvement, giving back the knowledge that I've gained, my experiences that I've learned and gone through, and just trying to kind of give that back to whoever can take it and use it to get themselves better. It's my experience within the game, so it's subjective, right? So we're gonna take a look at this video. I'm going to talk about some things as they come, kind of break them down, and kind of maybe go a little bit deeper into some of the meanings and some of the things that he's talking about. A lot of it based on what I've seen from players that I've played with, and just my own personal journey to getting better. Right. So, like I said, I started on console, switched to mouse and key probably about season 3. I've been a season 0 all the way to now player. So I've seen every iteration of the game, and how players have changed and haven't changed. So I have a pretty good perspective on this. So, but let's get into it.
No worse feeling than playing Apex for hours on end every single day and still not seeing any improvement. In this video, I'm going to cover the strategies and the concepts that I and many top level players use to break through plateaus and improve their skills. One of the biggest factors that can hold you back from improving is your ego, and I fall victim to this as well. Whenever we get eliminated, we immediately start to make excuses for why we lost. They had better armor, they third-partied us, or my teammates just suck. Even if these things are true, focusing on what you can't control will do nothing except send you into a downward spiral. Instead,
All right. So just off that first clip right there, off that first um, topic, ego. We all know, especially when it comes to shooter games or anything competitive, having an ego having an ego is not bad, but having an ego with your self improvement is bad. Okay. And what I mean by that is exactly what he's saying, right? When your ego is stopping you from seeing where you could do something better, and it happens multiple times after multiple times, that is the worst thing to have initially when you're trying to get better, right? I had to break that habit when I switched from, well, even before I switched, when I was on controller, when I was playing on console, that mindset, I had to switch because I knew from playing sports and stuff like that growing up that you have to look at most of your situations as it's your fault, right? And look at it from a perspective of, okay, how can I get better, right? When you're looking at certain fights, especially, I encourage guys to record themselves, record the gameplay. Um, Even if you don't stream, you can download OBS and you can record your gameplay while you play, right? I encourage guys to do that because you need to watch yourself, um, not for what players around you necessarily are doing, but you need to watch it to see what you can do, right? Because when you do that, you see that there's a level that you need to get to, right? And a lot of players that I find, they don't, when they realize there's another level to get to, it's too much work. Oh, it's too much work. I don't want to do all of that. That's pro level practice and time and effort. Why do I need to do all of that if I'm not going to try to go pro and make a career out of this? And to me, that's the wrong mindset to have, right? Because the goal of this game is to win, right? To win, to get kills, to win, to be productive to your team, doing damage. All these things are in place. And doesn't matter if you're a pro player or not. There's a certain level you have to get to be able to be good. Um, and it doesn't require really too much. It just requires effort and strategy, but it really starts with understanding that a lot of the reasons why you die what were reasons of, oh, I wide swung too hard, or I was too tunnel vision and I wasn't able to see everything going on around me, because if I was, I would have been able to see the guy coming this way and I wouldn't have took too much damage. Or, you know what, I'm on low ground looking up at a team trying to shoot them. That's wrong. Why should I do that? Maybe I should reposition, get to a better position. Like, all of those type of things are the counter to ego. And once a lot of players put that into play, the game skyrockets.
Instead, every single time you get eliminated, I challenge you to reflect on what mistakes you made. Maybe you could have had better positioning.
Exactly.
Maybe you could have sized up your opponents better before taking the fight. Or maybe a little bit more communication with your team would have helped out. And honestly, even if you win a team fight or an entire match, there's always something that you could have done just a slight bit better. The first step to improving is recognizing where you could improve, which is why you need to throw away the ego and consider yourself a student of the game. When I look at almost any player from bronze all the way up to masters, they're almost all making this one common mistake that is keeping them from improving their skill. And it's simple. They aren't challenging themselves. You wouldn't go to the gym and lift the same weight with the same amount of reps every week and expect results. And
bro, 100%. Hey, he's right. So many players, you know, and I had to do this myself, man. Like I said, when I switched from, so I was on console and I wanted to challenge myself and push myself to heights that I didn't know I could do. But I knew that staying where I was at in terms of being on console and playing on controller at the time wasn't going to do it. So I sold my Xbox, forced myself to have only one system, which was a PC. And I switched from controller to mouse and key, because at the time, mouse and key was the strongest, most used input at the time. It took me months, about a good solid year, to really get comfortable. This is hours of play, like hours. This is when I had really a lot of time to dedicate. I had, this was 8 to 10 plus hours of just like going in with a strategy and knowing exactly what I needed to do to improve each and every day. But that pushed me out of my comfort zone. And now when I look at certain things now, my mindset, I have something I can pull from and say like, okay, I did that hard thing. I can do this, right? But you have to put yourself out of your comfort zone, whether that be pushing yourself into fights that you wouldn't normally think you could win, but you have to do it so you can understand it, right? You have to almost be like a scientist, right? Doesn't matter what it is in the world, you're a scientist. Excuse me, you're a scientist. So you're putting yourself in a position to understand this thing. It's the only way.
And it's the same if you're trying to improve at Apex. If you were going through the same motions every single time you play, your skill level will plateau and you will eventually start to get worse as you pick up bad habits. If you want to improve at the game, you need to start putting yourself into challenging situations. When I load into the match, half the time I get teammates that drop on the outskirts of the map, loot for the entire game, and then die to the last team. Yep. And you almost always start questioning on how they aren't getting any.
And a lot of guys take that mindset into ranked. They play like that in pubs where they land on the outskirts, loot up entirely because they're overcompensating for their lack of gunplay and gun skill, right? So they have to get all the attachments on their guns, right? Got to make sure they're kitted out with full armor because they know they're going to take a lot of damage, right? And they still die to a better team who knows how to do more with less. You know what I mean?
Any better. Well, sit down and ask yourself, how can you get any better if you aren't actively putting yourself into gunfights? Even if you're playing for 6 hours a day, if you're only fighting 1 to 2 teams per match, you aren't going to be getting much practice at all. That's why I almost always recommend to play more aggressive. It's definitely going to hurt your stats and win percentage in the short run, but in the long run, you're going to be a much stronger player. That's also why I recommend playing duos and trios instead of ranked for most players. On the surface, you might think that ranked is actually a better challenge, but unless you have teammates that push every every single fight, you will likely spend the majority of your time looting and hiding in buildings. When I personally play in Masters or even Apex Predator lobbies, I can physically feel my skill diminishing as I'm taking nowhere near as many gunfights as I do when I'm running around in pubs. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not telling you to avoid ranked whatsoever. All I'm saying is that if you want to start improving, you need to start challenging yourself. So either play more aggressively in ranked or add some pubs on the side. Even if you are actively challenging yourself, I find there is one strategy that can improve your game a lot: the protege effect. You learn.
So it's a balance, right? I realized when I first switched over from console to mouse and key that I was not ready for ranked, right? I was not ready for ranked because those guys, even when I was in like silver and gold lobbies at the time, they were better than me, right? When I was hitting diamond on controller for seasons, right? Solo queue, right? But I was on a new input. So those players at the lower level on PC were better than me, right? And I realized that I didn't need to continue playing ranked because what's the point of, I'm hitting this wall. I need to play something that I can get a lot of reps in and practice in that would be a little bit easier on me. So I could get the like I said the reps in. I can get the muscle memory down of what I need to work on. And that was me playing a lot of pubs and spending a buttload of time in aim labs and a buttload of time in the range. I'm talking I spent at least an hour or two in the range, maybe two or three in the range, almost a day, and then would go to pubs. Because what a lot of guys don't understand is you have to get comfortable and start to really like being in the range and working on your actual game. It's like going to the gym before you prep for like a bodybuilding show, right? You need to be in the gym, right? So as much as you can be and doing the right things. So when you get on stage, it shows. And it's the same way. You got to be, in the range and working on your game and watching film and seeing what the best guys do more than you're playing the actual game in ranked and pubs because all of that goes into your mind and you absorb it and it'll come out eventually, but you have to put in the right things. You know what I mean?
Learn more from teaching others than from seeking knowledge for yourself. I personally do this by making YouTube videos like the one you're watching right now. Compiling all my knowledge solidifies it and commits it to my memory. And it also reveals gaps in my knowledge so I know where to put my focus into. Now there are a few different methods that you can follow if you want to utilize a protege effect. First, you can make educational content, whether it's on YouTube, Reddit, Twitter, or really any platform. Second, you can live stream. I love this method as you're going to be getting asked a lot of questions, which gives you a direct opportunity to teach your viewers and it will quickly reveal any weaknesses you have. Third, teach a new player how to play the game. This will force you to break down the game into its most simple components and will help you master the basics. If you want to teach some players tips and tricks on Apex, or if you want some advice yourself, join my Discord channel linked in the description below. We currently have over 500 gamers in the server and it's a great place to be if you want to be part of a welcoming community. But even if you do use the protege effect, you might still fall victim to a trap that holds many players back from their full potential. And that's focusing on their strengths and not their weaknesses. You see this all the time. Players notice their movement might be pretty good and they hyper focus onto movement. Or they might have good aim and then they spend all of their time aim training and wonder why they aren't ranking up. In reality, you don't need to be exceptional in any specific skill to reach the highest ranks in Apex. Even
That's
myself,
true.
I'll admit I don't have the best movement, I don't have the best aim, and I don't have the best game sense.
Well, listen, take somebody like Hal, for instance, right? TSM, when he was on TSM, Falcon Hal, right? Falcon Imperial Hal. When you look at him, right? A lot of people look at his gameplay or his game style and they're like, oh, it's super simple, right? He doesn't do a lot of movement. He doesn't do a lot of like different tech, but Hal is very good at the basics, right? He's mastered the fundamentals. And one of the things that separates him from a lot of players is his mind, right? Mentally, he's ahead of everybody, in my opinion, especially early on. Um, and mechanically, he was good, but he wasn't like crazy. But he understood angles, he understood positioning, and those things and he always hit his shots. He hit his shots, right? He was clutch. He had a clutch gene. He hit his shots. Um, but his mind was what separated him, in my opinion. Um, because if you think about it, trying to do a lot, especially in Apex, when you're trying to do a lot, trying to do a lot of movement, trying to do a lot of this and that, it clutters your mind because you're thinking about what you need to be doing so much. How playstyle is so simple and basic, but so effective because he doesn't have to worry about trying to wall bounce. He's not trying to worry about this new aim tech. He's just trying to outposition you, outplay you mentally, frees his mind up to be able to do that, and he dominates most people, right? Um, so yeah, you don't have to do a lot, you know.
sense. But I do have a decent level of competency in each category, which makes it much better than if I specialized in one specific category. Think about it, you can be a complete movement god, but if you're missing all your shots, you aren't going to be winning the match. Or you can have some insane aim, but if your positioning is terrible, you're not going to be doing too hot. What I recommend is to record some of your own gameplay, and then watch it back and try to spot and count all of the mistakes you make and which category they fall under. Whichever category you find the most mistakes, you should put all of your focus into that if you want to improve. But even if you do expose and focus on your weaknesses, you aren't going to be getting very far if you don't prioritize consistency. Like anything in life, consistency is key if
Yep.
you want to surpass your perceived limits and improve. And Apex is no different. The more consistent you are, the better you will become. Think about it like this. If you play a little bit each day with the intent on getting better, you may only be improving by like 1%. But 1% every single day adds up quickly. And in only 3 to 4 months, you should be technically twice as good of a player. It's sort of like a snowball effect. You will start out slow, but every day that you stay consistent, you'll be
Exactly.
building up momentum and the progress will start to stack on top of itself as long as you stay on track. And
And that's another huge thing, dude. Like it's easy for a lot of people to start something, right? Because they're like super motivated. But motivation wanes. Motivation's up and down, right? You have to have discipline. And it's a good thing to try to have discipline in some other area in your life so you understand what that is, right? Um Apex can be very challenging. It can be very annoying. And if you don't have discipline, you're going to get burnt out and frustrated and you want to quit like after the first week. You know what I mean? After the first week or two, especially when nobody's around, right? Nobody's playing with you. Nobody's in the, because listen, the reality is nobody can be with you in those late night sessions that you're doing by yourself. Nobody's with you in those early mornings when you're drinking coffee and it's 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, right? And you're trying to get an hour or two in of just straight aim training and like practicing, right? Nobody's with you. Nobody's with you, when you're looking up film and you're trying to figure out what does Taishin do that makes him so good? What does Verhulst do that makes him so good? And you're watching, video after video. Like nobody's with you. They're only with you when you play, right? And you have to understand that it's a lonely process. In anything, to get really good, it's a lonely process. And you have to be okay with like understanding that you have to do this for you, right? You have to be good or want to be good for you. And the results will follow, right? You gotta stay disciplined. Um, like I said, there was times where I'm waking up early in the morning, man, early in the morning before work, and I'm grinding on aim labs, right? I'm grinding in the range before I go to work, and I'm streaming everything, my progress, and my viewers they see it, right? And then over time, they would see the results pay off, and I would see the results pay off, and it makes it enjoyable, right? Because I'm taking my guys who are watching me on a journey from not being so good to being good to then being really good. And once you get to a certain level, you don't have to practice to that extent anymore. It's just about kind of keeping everything, going and flowing. But you have to break through that huge barrier to get to it.
This doesn't really take up a crazy amount of time. Even just a 30-minute session each day will keep the momentum going and will also keep your mechanics
Exactly.
from regressing. Now that you know that consistency is essential if you want to see advancements in your skill, you have to have some sort of structure to your routine if you want to be improving. Sure, you could just log into the game each day and load into trios, turn your brain off, and shoot. But honestly, that is what 99% of players are doing, so there is no way you're going to be able to set yourself apart from the average player. Even if you completely know life to the game and spend hours every day playing, Apex Legends released over 5 years ago, and the best players have been playing the game for the entirety of those 5 years, sinking thousands of hours into the game. So there's no way you'll be able to catch up if your only strategy is running around with your gun like everybody else. You want to start adding
Exactly.
more layers into your improvement strategy. You can add
Exact. He's about to go into it. I'm just gonna let him talk.
aim training, which will help improve your aiming skills much faster as you don't have many opportunities to improve it in battle royales like Apex. 1v1 practice, which will quite literally make winning gunfights so much easier. Movement practice, but be careful with this, as many players tend to get reliant on movement and end up with
Mm-hmm.
bad positioning in the long run. Watching your
Mm-hmm.
gameplay, this being hands down the best way to spot your weaknesses in your skill, which you can then focus on improving. Even better if you can hire a coach or a friend to watch it with you and point out mistakes that you might overlook. And learning from YouTube videos like this. I think watching educational Apex videos is highly underrated as there is so much downtime
I
when you're
agree.
searching for a game or spectating your teammate. And
I
using that
agree.
time to learn something new is a great way to utilize all the downtime you have. You also don't know what
I
you
agree.
don't know, which is why you want to be exposing yourself to as much helpful information as you can.
I agree. Exposing yourself to as much information as possible, because nowadays there's no excuse. Like, you got so many talented guys like this guy right here, like myself, like different other guys who give information differently, and we give it all. It's all the same. It's all the same information, right? When I first started out, there was a couple guys who were consistently the dominant voices in terms of giving their information and knowledge on the game. One guy that comes to mind immediately is Otter, right? OTTE or OTTR, I think. Um, he was huge. Him and a couple other guys, and just watching the pros play, just watching them develop and watching what they do. To me, that's the best. That's the best medicine. Um, and find somebody who you like a lot, and just be like, okay, I want to play like them, right? I personally am a rank grinder for the most part. I mean, I play pubs a lot, but I prefer to play in a more competitive setting. So I looked at guys who I looked up to who had a more simple play style. Didn't do a lot of flashy stuff, kept it simple. And guys like Taishin, guys like Hal, guys like Reps, um, Roz when he was hot, a lot of the Japanese players and the Korean players and stuff, like keeping it real simple and understanding, okay, what is it about their game that makes them so efficient? And a lot of it was, like I said, positioning. A lot of it was working on the aim. A lot of it was, understanding the utilization of cover, right? And the list goes on and on, you know?
These layers to build a routine you can follow for an extended period of time. I would say around 2 weeks. Then after those 2 weeks, reassess how you were improving and what you were weak at. Then you can adjust or recreate your routine to better align with your goals. What I love to do is give myself a time period, usually somewhere between 7 and 30 days. And I challenge myself to stick to a task each day until it becomes a habit. And I just find it makes it a much more fun process, which it should be. It's a video game. I've done this with aim training a few times in the past, both on controller and on mouse and keyboard, and those are by far the times where I've seen the most improvement in my mechanical skills. So now I challenge you to pick at least one of the layers I mentioned and do it every single day for at least 1 week. However, there is another aspect to the game and your mental that you need to keep on check, and that is your confidence. If you want to be the very best player that you can possibly be, there is a very fine line that you have to be on in terms of your confidence. If you don't have enough confidence, you will never put yourself into challenging situations and you will just simply play worse. But again,
So, all right. So I love how he did this. So he put ego. He put ego as number one, and he put confidence at the end. A lot of players get this confused, right? Because they deem ego as being negative, and they deem confidence as being positive. But players confuse the two and think that if you're confident, you have an ego. But look at what he described ego as in the beginning, right? ego was something that limits your ability to grow, right? And to get better. If I'm a player who's really good and I'm telling somebody else who's not that this is what they need to do, boom, 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 and I say it in a way that's like harsh to them, they deem that as, oh, you got an ego. But it's the opposite. I'm confident in what I know and what I've done. So I'm telling it to you verbatim. That's me having confidence in my abilities. Because if I wasn't confident in my abilities, I would never be as good as I am because I have an ego, right? An ego keeps you at a low point in your life and a low point in your game. So that's why you have to kill off ego. You have to kill off your ego because it keeps you at a low level and you'll never grow. But confidence is what allows you to continue to push towards things that are hard, right? It allows you to see something that's difficult that others don't want to do, and you say, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to be the one to do it, right? That's you pushing yourself out of your comfort zones and pushing yourself into situations that are going to be beneficial to you in the long run. That's confidence.
Again, it's a very fine line in confidence that you're aiming for. If you have so much confidence to the point where it becomes arrogant, you're doing nothing except setting yourself up for failure. You probably already know where you fall in the confidence spectrum, and I highly recommend you keep this in mind whenever you find yourself getting scared of the competition or you start blaming everything and everyone except for yourself. This video is going to help you break through skill plateaus, but there is so much more to know in the game, which is why you need to watch this video of 100.
All right, guys, listen, that was a great video. What I'll do, I'll probably put the link down to this video below if you guys want to check this out. Listen, this is all great stuff and confidence, guys. Kill off the ego, kill off who you think you are, and look at the fact that if you had all the answers, you'd be better, right? That's your ego. Kill off that. Work on your game, get better, and build yourself back up to who you need to be, right? So, guys, I appreciate you watching, man. Subscribe, like the video. I'm out. Peace.